We all know someone like this. That person who is just perfectly happy spending a Friday night with a good book instead of out with a big crowd. So today, we're going to dive into the world of people who genuinely like to be alone. There's this kind of mystique around them for sure, that as we're about to see, there are also a ton of misconceptions. Right? The first place our minds usually go is that someone who wants to be alone must be, I don't know, awkward or unfriendly or just plain antisocial. But is that really what's going on here? Turns out it's way more complex and honestly a lot more interesting than that. Okay, so this lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the stereotype we all know, awkward, sad, reclusive. But on the other side, that's the reality that we're starting to understand. It's a picture of people who aren't just coping with being alone, they're actually thriving because of it. So let's break down what that reality looks like. Now, the most important thing to get right off the bat is this. Being alone is not the same thing as being lonely. This one distinction is the key that unlocks everything else. I know they sound similar, but believe me, for our own well-being, they are worlds apart. So what is solitude? Well, it's an active choice. It's when you deliberately set aside time for yourself because you actually get something valuable out of it. And research shows that when this time alone is self-determined, meaning you chose it, nobody forced it on you, it's linked to way higher levels of well-being. It's a state of being present with yourself, not a state of absence. And then there's loneliness. This is the total opposite. It's that involuntary, painful feeling of being isolated. It's the gap between the social connection you want and the connection you actually have. So one is a fulfilling choice, and the other is a really painful circumstance. Huge difference. And I think this just captures it perfectly. The philosopher Paul Tillich really nailed it. Loneliness is about pain, but solitude can be about glory. And it's in that glory that we find some really unique traits of the people who genuinely enjoy it. So what really makes these people tick? What are the characteristics of those who've kind of mastered this art of solitude? Well, we've boiled it down to 7 signature traits they almost always share. Let's jump into the first one. First up, they have this really strong emotional core. Now, this doesn't mean they're cold or unfeeling at all. It's more about their ability to sit with their own emotions, understand them, and calm themselves down without immediately needing someone else to say, hey, it's going to be okay. They've spent enough time with themselves to know they can handle their own emotional weather. Their security comes from inside, not from how many likes they get. Okay, number 2, they are absolute masters of boundaries. They're really clear about what they're willing to do and what they're not. But here's the cool part. Their boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're more like clear, honest pathways that show people how to connect with them in a real way. By saying a clean no to stuff that drains them, they can give a full, energetic yes to the people and things that truly matter. This one is huge. They don't get bored when they're alone because their own mind is a genuinely fascinating place to hang out. Think of it like a personal playground. They're always feeding their curiosity, tinkering with ideas, or just diving deep into some random topic for the fun of it. So for them, silence isn't empty. It's a space that's just filled with potential. Honestly, their own thoughts are pretty good company. And listen to this quote from a research participant. It just brings that inner world to life. It's all about freedom and creation. Being alone gives you the space to let your imagination just run wild, to build things, solve problems, and be exactly who you want to be without anyone else weighing in. It's like a creative superpower. Solitude is basically the perfect training ground for introspection. All that quiet time helps them develop this really deep understanding of who they are, what drives them, what scares them, what actually makes them happy. They're not afraid to look at their own flaws, and they're pretty confident in their strengths. And this self-awareness isn't just for show. It actually helps them make better decisions and navigate life with real intention. And this one completely blows up that whole antisocial myth. See, they're not against socializing. They're just against shallow socializing. Small talk can feel like a total energy drain, right? Instead, they would much rather have one deep, meaningful conversation than go to a party full of chit-chat. Their social life is all about quality over quantity, which is why they usually have this small circle of incredibly loyal, high-trust friends. For them, independence isn't just some nice to have. It's a core value. They get this deep satisfaction from being self-reliant, from figuring out problems on their own, and just moving through the world on their own terms. It's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing deep down that you can count on yourself. It's the ultimate expression of freedom. And finally, number 7, and this might be the most powerful trait of all, self-leadership. They don't look at trends or what everyone else is doing to figure out who they should be. They've built their own personal operating system based on their own values. This means they have an internal compass guiding their choices. They set their own standards. They are quite literally the architects of their own lives. So, you might be hearing all this and thinking, wow, that sounds great, but I'm a total extrovert, or I get super antsy when I'm alone. Well, here's the good news. Enjoying solitude is actually a skill you can build. It's not just some personality type you're born with. So how do you do it? Start small. Seriously, baby steps. Try 10 minutes of what you could call micro-solitude a day. No phone, just sit or walk. Then try blocking out one chunk of uninterrupted time for a single task. Practice setting just one kind but firm boundary this week. And hey, consciously fuel that inner world. Swap just 20 minutes of scrolling for 20 minutes of reading something you're actually curious about. These small steps build the muscle. So as we start to wrap this up, let's circle back to that idea of glory. We started by looking at the myth that liking to be alone means you're broken. But hopefully, we've replaced that with a new understanding of solitude as a source of incredible strength. And really, this is the ultimate takeaway. Liking to be alone isn't a personality flaw. It's a practice that leads to clarity, creativity, and a deep sense of self-respect. It's not about escaping the world. It's about having a reliable path to come back to yourself, a place where you can reset, recharge, and finally hear your own voice above all the noise. So I'll just leave you with this thought. After everything we've talked about, it's pretty clear that time alone is an empty space. It's a real opportunity, an opportunity to connect, to create, and to lead your own life. So the only real question left is, when are you going to schedule that next really important meeting with yourself?